I'm typing this in a mix of fear and nerves. I am the youngest, 22 of 5 kids, 30 male, 28 male, 28 female, twins, and 25 female. My parents are heavily religious and we live in Utah. Growing up, everything had to be done perfectly. It didn't matter if it was grades, looks, social activities, or even friends. I'm different from my siblings as I was never interested in the maths and science like they were. I've always been the writer, the painter. I remember once when I was 13, I made a painting of a dove in a snowy field and won first in the competition. I told my parents, who got angry, that I had wasted my time with something so worthless when I should have been using the time to study. I still had A's in every class. My mother won't even say more than a few words to me. She's always seemed like she hates me, and I don't understand. Father burned the painting to remind me of what was truly important before taking all of my art supplies until I showed more responsibility with my time. It's been like this as long as I can remember. I work full-time and have since I was 15 at McDonald's, dashing every bit of money I could. Father took half my checks as tithing to help teach me what being an adult was like. I applied to several colleges, but was told by my parents that they would not be helping me with tuition, as they did for my siblings, because they thought sending me to college would just be a waste of money. So I got angry. I am so tired of being the black sheep just because I like the arts more than maths and science. And then I heard them talking when I got up in the middle of the night about the perfect man they'd found who is willing to take me in. Through our church, I am terrified, and so I'm leaving. I've got some money saved up, a good amount, and I'm leaving the country. I found a job that lets me work remote, doing freelance design work. And I've had my passport since I was a kid because of our family vacations overseas. I'm taking nothing other than a change of clothes, my laptop, and important documents I took out of my father's office. I booked a flight that leaves in 5 hours, and I'm never coming back. I'm not even going to take my phone since I'd need to get a new number anyway. My best friend, God bless her, had been the one booking things and getting everything ready since I couldn't tip off my parents. She's also smuggled some of my more important things I can't take to hold on to for me. She's parking down the street, and I'll leave with my smallest suitcase to meet her. I don't know how they'll take this. I'm terrified they'll find a way to drag me back or track me down. They went to bed over an hour ago, but I'm too anxious to sleep. I don't know if I'll have any updates, but I just hope they don't stop me. Now for the 4-day update. Wow. So much has been happening lately that it's kept my head on a swivel constantly. I'll start with the good part of the update before moving on to the less happy bits. So I was advised to remove the location destination from my post, so all I will say is that I'm in South Africa right now and it's amazing. The food is astonishing, and a poster here messaged me to recommend that I try bunny chow, which is actual authentic curry in a bread bowl. It was phenomenal. I got to chatting with one of the hotel staff. She's about my age, and we really hit it off. She went with me to a local shopping center to get some new and better clothes. At least I'm used to wearing dresses, so that doesn't faze me. And they're very lightweight and breathable, unlike a lot of US dress fabrics. She also told me to always shake out my shoes every morning, just in case. I've started apartment hunting, and it's well within my budget, like super low compared to how sky-high it is in the US. It's honestly jaw-dropping. Like $81 for a studio apartment with a loft and kitchenette. So yeah, housing won't be an issue. And it is a bit odd to be house shopping for myself when I've always lived with my parents. Now on to the less pleasant bits. I finally opened the emails, deciding it was best to probably get it over with. My father's email was filled with anger. There is no other way to put it. He said that by taking off irresponsibly like I did, cost them the friendship of someone they'd planned on introducing to me. He never admitted that it was the 53-year-old they'd basically sold me to. Father stated that because of the social relations that had been damaged and impacted by my actions, I owe them approximately $85,000 in reparations. He also claims that he will be taking me to court if I don't pay it in full within 30 days and return home, as I obviously cannot be trusted. I plan to ignore that as I believe him to be bluffing. He ended his email/rant with, "You belong to me, and I won't tolerate such defiance when we've put a roof over your head and taken care of you for your entire life. You were never the child we expected. It's time you make up for your deficiencies. I expect you home within the next 2 weeks." Yeah, no. My siblings were basically copies of my father's email, admonishing me for throwing the efforts of our parents in their faces before running off like a coward, unwilling to face the fallout of my actions. I skimmed them honestly before just deleting them. It's nothing I didn't expect. However, my sister-in-law, she's married to my eldest brother, sent her own email before asking me not to reply, as she would be deleting every sign she sent it from her end. She congratulated me on stepping out on my own and getting away from my parents and their demands. She said that she herself hadn't been strong-willed enough to stand up to her parents when they basically betrothed her to my brother. Which makes sense, as I remember that they met and then married within 6 months. And even then, I thought that was a bit strange. She pleaded with me not to return and not to reply. That was it. It was a bit unnerving, honestly, as I do believe her, and I'm sad that she is stuck the way she is. The last email was from my best friend. She said that the morning after I flew out, my parents had been on their doorstep demanding to see me. Apparently, they believed I was hiding with her. They refused to leave, screaming for me to stop pretending I wasn't there. It caused enough of a scene that the police were called, but they only talked to my parents briefly and let them leave. It really angered my friend, who'd wanted them arrested for threats and trespassing. The police only claimed that there wasn't a pattern of behavior that would warrant them being arrested and charged before just leaving. She didn't know when they realized I wasn't there at her house, but they didn't come back, thankfully. However, word has spread of me fleeing the safety of my parents' home and how they wanted me to return as they were concerned and fearful of what may happen with me out on the streets alone. The church ward has actually done searches of the area trying to find me. I don't know what they'll do from here, but they have no idea I left the country, let alone the state. My friend has no plans to say anything, and neither do I. As far as I'm concerned right now, they can live with that state of wondering for the rest of eternity. I don't think I will renounce my U.S. citizenship, as there may come a day when I need it, and it's better to be safe than sorry. But I have full plans to gain dual citizenship as soon as I am able to. That's it for now, no other parts yet, but if anything changes, I'll let you know. I want to thank you all for your comments and private messages. It feels like I've got friends and family on my side, and I cannot tell you how much that means to me. Truly, thank you, all of you. So much advice and support from everyone. I cannot thank you all enough. I thought with all the comments and questions, I thought I'd answer here and explain what's happened since my last post. Ironically, my use of maths instead of just math comes from my mother, who is British and met my father in England when they were 22. So I do come by it naturally, and my siblings say it that way as well. I thank you for drawing my attention to the TT videos broadcasting my story, though why they changed the name I don't know. I did report them, but we'll have to see if they ever pull the videos down or at least edit them. Second is people questioning why I chose South Africa and Johannesburg of all places because of how dangerous it can be. I do understand the risks, but there is nowhere on this planet that is inherently danger-free. Africa is massive and incredibly diverse. Finding someone would be very difficult, and because those videos got so much attention, I have left Johannesburg, sadly. I'm very far though, obviously still in Africa. The area I'm in now is incredibly safe and came highly recommended by several people. Settling here will be very comfortable and the people are wonderful. I may even attend the university here and get a degree. I haven't replied to the emails, but I have saved them in printed copies and laminating them just in case. I will not be renouncing my U.S. citizenship, and my passport is good for another 8 years. I don't hate religion, regardless of what it is. In my eyes, a person's relationship with God is incredibly personal. If a person connects with him via camping or walks, long drives, listening to music, acts of service, That's their choice, and it's just as valid in my opinion as sitting in a pew is. Possibly more, as they're honest with themselves instead of just putting on a false facade for the public eye. I plan on ignoring any further emails from my family, other than printing them out just in case. They've made several phone calls to my friend who's had fun with them. The first time your father called yelling that I hand you over, I pretended to be cowed and gave him your location. It took him to a strip club. He came back screaming at how I had embarrassed him. I just hung up on him honestly. She did that each time they called, giving a different location each time. Her favorite was sending my parents to a nudist retreat. My mother passed out apparently. My friend is looking to move and eventually plans to join me, but will jump around a bit so that they don't follow her to me. I did finally read my uncle's email, but it was just a copy of my father's, with the added comment that he and his fellow cops would be looking for me to bring me home safe before I got myself in trouble and hurt. I am being watchful, and I know better than to wander into dark alleyways and abandoned places. That's all I've got for now. If anything changes, I'll let you all know. It's heartwarming seeing and reading how many people are on my side and in my corner. I've actually begun printing out everyone's messages and comments to put in a binder I can look back on later. Truly thank you all. I mean it. Now for a relevant comment. On being forced to marry, even though OP is an adult. Pressure via local church wards, it is easier to move on when I don't have them standing over me, forcing their choices in place of my own. I honestly don't know if I'd be strong-willed enough to stand up to my father in person just yet. Maybe one day in the future, when I know who I am outside of what I've been forced to be. Hello everyone. It's been a while since my last update, and a few things have happened that I was told by my friend that I needed to share since everyone was still clearly rooting for me. I have settled in a bit here, and am now enjoying the fun of paperwork. Oh, so much paperwork. I have secured an apartment, and while it's 2 bedrooms, one is for my friend when she comes to join me. I've made a few acquaintances here locally, and I'm beginning to stand on my own a bit. My biggest challenge has been dealing with feeling uncomfortable because I don't know all of those unspoken rules the way I did in the US. As such, I'm constantly second-guessing myself, but hopefully that will fade with time. So family. My family has learned I left the state. How they did, I'm not sure. They do, however, seem convinced that I am still in the continental US. My friend works as a cartoonist, and while she doesn't make a large amount of money, she makes more than enough to live comfortably. She's getting ready to leave herself and decided to send my parents a farewell gift. She didn't tell me about this until just a little bit ago. She spent a few hours carefully drawing my parents as they visited each location she sent them to, including their reactions, and all scenes were ended with the phrase, "Abade, abade, abade. That's all, folks." Sadly, while I've never seen Looney Tunes, as she named it, she said she portrayed my dad as similar to a coyote. I'm still not 100% sure what that means, but she said everyone else would, before then ordering me to watch it. Maybe one day. She should be joining me around October 9th, after country hopping several times. All the things she hasn't sold are in a secured storage unit, including the things she's been holding for me. The biggest revelation came after my father. Well, he had a meltdown apparently after I never responded to him. He got into a fight with my mother in church, and many things were said. Among those, according to several, that my mother had cheated on my father, which, well, led to me. Which is why she never liked me, I guess, as I just reminded her of her mistakes. My father took her back in spite of that, but well, there it is. It caused a big stir in the ward, and meetings were held, though I obviously don't know what was said or done. I may never know honestly. I am trying to move on and am even contemplating getting a tattoo. Part of me really wants to, while another points out that if I change enough and father finds me, he won't want me then. That's all really for now. I'm not sure if I'll have anything else to share, but if anything happens, I'll let you all know. Thank you for all the messages and comments. I do read them all, and it means more than you'll ever know. Hello, everyone. Sorry this update has taken so long. Once my friend arrived, things got really hectic. She's been settling in well, and it has been a huge relief to have her here with me, as it gives me a sense of security that I didn't really have before. We've been taking time to build new routines, finding a new normal, I guess, that works for us both. It's been a challenge, but at the same time, everything has been so different one day to the next that it's kept the days from seeming boring or blurring together. One of the elderly neighbors I've been talking to a lot since I moved here has also invited the both of us to spend Christmas with her and her family. They're going to have a goat as the main meat, which is different, but I'm excited to try. It's odd to not see Christmas trees everywhere, but that's still a new thing, so it's not common here. But her granddaughter is teaching my friend and I some of the dances we'll be doing, as Christmas celebrations here are more like a festive party and gathering rather than a slow day spent with just gifts. It's odd, as even in my family we'd only ever be given 3 gifts, one for our body, one for the mind, and the last for the soul to honor the Trinity according to my parents. Last year, I think I received a new Sunday dress, a set of physics textbooks, and a new log journal for my scripture reading. After gift openings, we'd each retreat to our rooms and remain there until dinner was ready, usually made by Mother and myself. Yet here they're planning on doing our hair, having dances and music with food and laughter. Gifts are still given, obviously, but the day is spent more with those around you than on material things. I'm excited. I've decided to ignore my family for now. I've gotten a lot of questions on why I didn't report them or confront them, and the answer is easy and may seem a bit childish, but the thought of facing them like that terrifies me. I don't want to be around them, talk to them, or think about them. I'm genuinely scared that trying to bring justice will only drag me right back into the mess I ran from. I'm 22, and yet I'm terrified of my own family. So that's why I'm not doing anything to them. I just want to pretend, even if only for a bit, that my life isn't messed up and freakish, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know where I will be a year from now, but somehow the thought doesn't worry me. I'm happy, genuinely happy, and excited to see where things will go from here. Thank you, everyone. Really, I mean it. Looking back, it's mind-blowing how things have changed, and there is still so much I get to do. I know there are people here from all over the world. I'd love to hear your holiday traditions. I don't care if it's not Christmas, I'd just love to hear what you do this time of year and your traditions. I'm trying to figure out my new normal and what I like, so I'd love any suggestions, be it food, music, dances, anything really. Am I the idiot for believing Steve's ex over him and ending our relationship? I, female 28, and my BF, male 30, who we'll call Steve, have been together for 2 years and have been living together for 8 months. I was cleaning our apartment when I found a note in the back of a cabinet. For context's sake, I'll copy it below. Dear Steve's future girlfriend, I know it's you reading this because he'd never clean back here. I'm putting this here because I'm leaving him soon and want to warn you about him. 1, he will not clean. 2, he will not listen. 3, he will make everything feel like it's your fault. It's not your fault. He's just an incompetent man. I'm leaving him. I suggest you do the same. Best wishes, Natalia. Name changed. I read the note and brought it to show to him and hear his response. He immediately ripped it up and said not to listen to it, that she was crazy and untrustworthy. I told him that the fact that he hasn't found it in the 5 years since they broke up is a red flag to me because it does mean he's never cleaned back there and that he has been cleaning less and less since I moved in. He told me that it wasn't a problem before the note. This is just his ex continuing to manipulate and ruin his life, and I was letting it work. We continued to argue along the same lines, and I eventually left to spend the night at a friend's place. Steve has been a great boyfriend so far. He gets along with my family. He has given me gifts and flowers and always tells me how much he loves me. He's not wrong that the cleaning hasn't really been brought up before. The note made me realize it had been less and less and that we needed to have a full conversation. He texted me afterwards saying he's sorry that I felt like I had to leave, but that it's a jerk move for me to take a note over our 2-year relationship and to leave him and our pets alone. I don't know what to do or what to believe right now. I'm contemplating trying to find and reach out to Natalia. Her name in real life is pretty unique, so I think I could find her. Steve thinks I should come back home and let it go, that his past should affect our future. I feel like I could be the jerk, because everything Steve has said about Natalia does make it sound like she was manipulative and petty throughout their relationship. But I don't know what to trust. When we moved in together 8 months ago, the cleaning was 50-50. Since then, he's been doing things less and less, and I'd say it's at like 70-30, maybe 60-40, if he listens to me right away. It depends on the week. I have to remind him to do things like bring his plates to the sink or take out the trash, and I didn't have to before. The dishes will pile up unless I do them, to the point he's had leftover food mold on the plates. I'm not a confrontational person, so I was just asking him to fix it when it came up. The note made me reflect on it more and try to have an actual full conversation, and I will say I didn't feel listened to when I talked to him about it. I tried to use the note to start a conversation about cleaning, and he got so stuck on that I was listening to his ex instead of him, that he wouldn't listen to what I think are valid concerns. He thinks I'm letting the note have confirmation bias, so no matter what he says, I'll think he's in the wrong. Also, I didn't leave him permanently. This all happened yesterday, and I only spent one night at a friend's because I didn't feel like our conversation was going anywhere last night, and he wouldn't let me sleep until I let it go. I'm going back today and wanted to get advice and feedback before I do. I appreciate all these comments with advice. I'm heading back to our place now. My plan is to first apologize for immediately bringing him the note without thinking of his feelings, and validate that it's hard to have an ex's message found. That being said, you're all right that I've been letting the cleaning stuff get away. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to ask him repeatedly to clean. It was pointed out to me that he should have cleaned the shelves during his move from his ex's place. The fact that it hasn't been touched in 5 years is forcing me to take the note seriously. I don't want to throw away 2 years, so I am going to ask him to come up with some clear cleaning expectations with me and designated chores. I will make it clear that cleaning is absolutely a deal breaker for me. It's his decision on how he wants to respond. I'll try to update you all. Again, thank you so much for the advice. Now for the update. I followed your advice from the last post and tried to have a calm discussion with Steve. When I apologized for confronting him with the note, he seemed to take that as an admission of guilt and refused to listen to anything else. I had come up with a list of specific instances of not cleaning, like many of you suggested, and he said I was using lists just like his manipulative ex did. So yeah, the crazy ex thing you all said was a red flag was definitely true. When I realized the conversation wasn't going anywhere, he even tried to block me from leaving. That's when I knew it was done and left immediately. 2 years down the drain, but I'm glad I had the wake-up call before it was too late. I will let him cool off and then will ask my brother to come with me to grab my things while he's not there. He has a strict work schedule, so I think it'll work out. I am planning on leaving a note there, but probably a little longer with the advice to not show it to him. I'm leaving it in the exact same place, so if he doesn't learn his lesson about cleaning, it'll come to haunt him. All he has to do is clean. The biggest surprise out of all of this is that I didn't reach out to Natalia. She reached out to me. Apparently, he borrowed his friend's phone to call her, screaming that she's ruining his life still. The fact that she blocked him and he still had her number memorized just further confirms he was the crazy ex, not her. Natalia found me on social media and wanted to make sure I was okay, and was especially concerned that he'd gaslight me like he tried with her. I thanked her for leaving me the note and saving me time. We scheduled coffee for Thursday afternoon. I wanted to thank you all again for the advice, especially the person who posted the Love is Respect website. I took the healthy relationship quiz after our conversation, and it wasn't great. You called out how he was weaning me into an unhealthy relationship so well. For now, my friend said I can stay until I find a new place. I have emergency savings and a decent job, so I'm in a privileged place when it comes to this messy breakup. and am just trying to feel grateful for that. Now for a few important comments. So, what is your experience with number 2 and number 3 of Natalia's note? Did you see some truth in her words there with your own past experiences with Steve? He does listen to me, I think. Like when he gets me flowers, he knows my favorite. We have some hobbies in common and love to talk about them. I feel like the most he's not listened is in this situation because he refused to get past the fact that I'm listening to his ex over him. That being said, since we moved in together, I do feel like he's putting in less effort when it comes to starting conversations or initiating quality time. To number 3, this is hard for me to answer. I think I can be a people pleaser and tend to think things are my fault anyway, but he's never directly said, "That's your fault." When it comes to conflict, now for the issues she has with her boyfriend's cleaning after showing him the note. Thank you for your feedback. I'm looking for a balanced perspective, so I appreciate this comment. I did have an issue with his lack of cleaning, and have asked him repeatedly to clean up after himself, and it hasn't really improved. I agree that I should have sat down to have this full conversation about it earlier, instead of using this note to do so. I'm questioning our relationship based on his response to the note, not the note itself, as he raised his voice a bit. Also, other people commented about the letting me go to sleep thing, and I'm now also realizing that's not okay. I'm not sure what to do. I go back to our place in an hour, and I'm trying to come up with ideas for the conversation. I agree. I should apologize for immediately bringing him the note and trying to talk about the cleaning instead of comforting him that someone in his past was playing games. Now for the update. As you can tell by my original post, I like to do things right away. It was definitely a mistake to bring him the note right away, but doing the things I did this morning right away was not a mistake, as it allowed me to save my pets. First, I want to respond to the comments saying I broke up a 2-year relationship over a note and chores. No, I broke up a 2-year relationship because when I tried to come up with solutions to an unequal situation, his response was to yell and try to convince me there was no problem except me. The final straw was when he physically blocked me from leaving the house after he was screaming at me. That is not okay, and no one should stay with a man who responds to conflict like that. The actual update. I wound up texting the post to Natalia last night, and she thought it was great. She, like some of you, asked me about the pets. For context, one of the things Steve and I connected on was our love for little creatures. It's why I thought he was such a great guy, because if he could take such intricate care of his lizard, he could do the same with me. I was very wrong. He has one lizard he bought before me, and then we bought 2 frogs together. I have a snake I brought with me when I moved in. I was planning on waiting until he cooled down to go grab my things and the frogs and snake, thinking he would never hurt them, but Natalia changed my mind. She said he could get destructive when he's mad and was concerned about the safety of my little guys. I immediately knew I couldn't wait until later this week and reached out for a meeting with the landlord for early this morning. I wound up FaceTiming with Natalia last night, and we had a long discussion. Natalia is a lawyer and told me that in our state, landlords are required to let me get out of the lease I signed in cases of domestic violence. She also told me that his yelling, gaslighting, and refusing to let me leave are all types of abuse. It's definitely hard for me to sit with that, but the love is respect relationship quiz helped me also realize that a bit more last night. Apparently, his constant messaging and control over what I wore and when were signs of abuse too. Anyway, this morning, Natalia volunteered to come talk to the landlord with me alongside my brother. As soon as he heard the word lawyer, he was on top of it and said I could break the lease, but would still have to pay for all of August, even though I'm leaving 3 days early. I felt like that was fair. He also messaged Steve to say the apartment needed to be empty for emergency maintenance all day today so I could pack my things. Steve messaged back that he was at work all day and wouldn't be home until 6 p.m. When I got into the apartment, it was a mess. He had broken my dishes that I had brought with me on the ground and left the shards laying about. My clothes were ripped up and scattered around our room. It was disgusting and heartbreaking. He left his lizard alone, but opened the tank doors for our frogs and my snake. Luckily, the frogs were still chilling in their enclosure, but my snake had gotten loose. This made me the most mad, as she could have gotten cut on the broken plates. I feel so fortunate that she was just hiding in the closet corner, and I was able to pack her up safely in her enclosure again. All my things are packed, and I'm writing this as my brother drives me back to my friend's house right now. Natalia told me that she actually left 3 notes, one in the cabinet, one on the underside of the vacuum, and one in the crumb catcher of the toaster. While we were there, we checked to see if the notes were still there. The one on the vacuum was, but it looks like Steve did clean out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years. He never told me he had already found a note in our conversations, so it caught me by surprise. Natalia and I left the vacuum note as is and replaced the cabinet one. I wasn't comfortable leaving my name on a new note, so my addition was a handout on healthy versus unhealthy relationships and a QR code to the quiz that woke me up. Natalia said if he didn't find the notes in those 5 years, especially after the move, he probably won't find them again. I'm inclined to agree, especially given he did find one but then didn't even clean the rest of the house to see if there was any more. Steve doesn't make sense to me, and seeing the state of the apartment really woke me up to the fact that I have no idea who he is. The Steve I knew would never put animals in danger, but I don't think I really ever knew Steve. To the people saying it's pathetic that I broke up my relationship because of chores and Reddit, I encourage you to reflect on the subtle ways that abuse starts. This Reddit thread woke me up to it and gave me the resources to get out safely before it got any worse. I also made an appointment for a therapist. I'm very lucky that my job has good insurance, so I should be able to work through this relationship, and I'm hoping to focus on boundaries and my people-pleasing habits so I never find myself in this situation again. To the people wishing that Natalia and I would get together, we had a good laugh about it. Natalia is engaged to a wonderful man who cleans, listens, and reflects. She said there's a phenomenon that when people break up with their awful ex, their soulmate can quickly follow. I'm hoping that's true. Regardless, I do think I got a good friend out of this, especially since Natalia is a snake mom too. This is my final update. I hope if you learn anything from my experience, it's that abuse doesn't start right away. First, there's love bombing, gifts, and pretty words. And then slowly, they test how much you'll put up with. You should never have to put up with anything, especially moldy freaking plates. After ending things due to his behavior, Steve destroyed our apartment and let my snake loose, but I was able to get off the lease and get my things with Natalia's help. Now I am safe and am looking for a new place to live. Now for a few relevant comments. Natalia received the assignment, demonstrate sisterhood, and aced the test. I am so sorry that Steve proved all of us, including Natalia, right on how crappy he is. Can you go after him for the destruction of property? Owoop replied. Honestly, I just want to put this behind me. Most of the clothes were ones he bought me. I thought they were sweet gifts, but looking back on it, I'm realizing he pushed my style out for the one he prefers. He liked to dress me exactly the way he wanted, so I'm okay leaving the clothes behind. I can get new dishes and new clothes that fit me. I have my pets, and that's all that matters to me. Then another commenter said, the Steve I knew would never put animals in danger, but I don't think I really ever knew Steve. That really freaks me the frick out in these posts. The idea that you can know someone enough to start working on a life together, but not actually know them. It makes me wonder what % of abusers masking do it specifically on purpose to trap someone, and what % just happen to have nothing trigger their worst instincts/behaviors. It's hard to imagine the bulk of stealth abusers being patient masterminds working a long con. Another commenter added, but it looks like Steve did clean out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years. Steve probably didn't have a choice for that one. The paper and crumbs mix would have started smoking at some point. When asked about her snake, OOP said, a Western hognose. She's the cutest. Her name is Raspberry because she's pinkish in color. Am I the idiot for leaving my husband after he chose his mother over me and our unborn child? Hi, Stefan. Maybe you will finally listen. And if you're wondering if you can just speed home and stop me from doing this and leaving, it's too late. I'm sending you this after I've already loaded everything in the car and left. Don't worry, I spoke with our landlords and took my name off the lease. I've set up a direct deposit for the next month's rent. After that, you're on your own, buddy. I guess you're wondering why. I'm guessing you'll act like you're completely blindsided, right? Because you've done absolutely nothing wrong, and you're a great husband and father to be, aren't you? Well, buddy, let me break it down for you in a language you understand. I, female 29, have been married to my husband, male 35, for 5 years, and we've been together for nearly 10. On paper, everything seemed fine. But in reality, our marriage has been anything but. I've reached my breaking point, and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the beginning, my mother-in-law has been a nightmare. She made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white, claiming it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticizes me, from my cooking to my appearance. I'll never forget the time she called me fat at a family gathering, right in front of everyone. And what did my husband do? Nothing. Not a single word to defend me. It didn't stop there. She has accidentally destroyed my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap costume jewelry. She's gone out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home. But every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, he'd brush it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving strangers relationship advice, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time rating women's breasts on Reddit than talking to me, literally. And just so you know, the last pair he rated weren't a 4 out of 10. They were a 10 out of 10. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to do that, but can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He'll forget my birthday, our anniversary, even simple things like what I'm working on or what's important to me, but he has a perfect memory for his work schedule and things that matter to him. When we fight, he becomes incredibly hostile and always throws in a sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm some acquaintance he can barely tolerate, and he never cleans. The house, the dishes, laundry, you name it, it's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional, as long as he's got his job and his Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter. My mother-in-law started making comments about how she'll have to whip the girl into shape and how she'll raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband that I didn't want his mother to have too much influence on our daughter, especially with the way she treats me, he just laughed it off, saying his mother means well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that truly broke me was when we were talking about future childcare, and my husband suggested that his mother should watch our daughter while we work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially considering how his mother treats me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and said I should get over it because his mother was going to be a big part of our daughter's life, whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes corporal punishment is okay. I've seen her hit my husband's nephew for the smallest things, and no one does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I'm finally waking up to the reality of what's going on. If he wouldn't stand up for me, how could I expect him to stand up for our child? I started to fear for what kind of environment our daughter would grow up in, a place where she might be belittled or bullied by her own grandmother, with a father who wouldn't do anything to stop it. Oh, and did I mention that he missed our first ultrasound? His mother needed him to help her with something urgent. It turned out to be fixing her Wi-Fi. He chose that over seeing our daughter for the first time. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stand in his life. So I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into complying anymore because I have all those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So, Stefan, I wish you all the best in your future marriage, with your mother and the women of Reddit whose breasts you don't even deserve. Am I the jerk for leaving my husband after he neglected me for years, let his mother mistreat me, and made me fear for our future daughter's safety? Now, for a tiny update. Stefan has seen this post. He is mad that apparently one of you found him based on the rate my breasts thing. He has deleted his account. For any purposes, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating information that could lead to doxing him. Any and all people who are pretending to know me or have any incriminating information about me are lying. I am not from South Carolina, I am not moving in with any other guy, and I am also not sleeping around. Now for the 2-day update. Some people on Reddit have been pretending to know me and spreading false claims. They've said I'm a deadbeat who doesn't work and that Stefan has 2 jobs to support me. They even fabricated a story about a neighbor who supposedly is a good friend of ours, saying I've been sleeping around and moving in with the guys I supposedly had affairs with. None of this is true. We don't live in South Carolina or the UK, and we're not friends with any of our neighbors. I have never cheated on Stefan, and I work and make slightly more than him, just $1 an hour difference. I suspect these claims might be from trolls brigading or Stefan's friends trying to make me regret posting about this. I am safe and staying with family, which is all I'm going to say for now. I'm working with my lawyer to ensure our safety, and that's all I can disclose at this time. For women who find themselves in my situation and are dealing with a lease, consult with a pro bono lawyer who specializes in rental rights. That's what I did. They can give you advice specific to your country or region. In my case, I was able to move out because Stefan and I had both signed a lease contract and had completed the minimum rental period. After my free consultation, I worked with my landlords, who are a lovely older couple, to arrange my departure. So don't be scared, you can be scared, but there are things you can do to protect yourself. Also, make sure to run a credit check on yourself. I did, and it's another issue I'm addressing. As for recent developments, there hasn't been much new. Stefan is clearly desperate. He and my mother-in-law have both had meltdowns and launched separate smear campaigns. My mother-in-law has spread false claims, including that I'm an unfit mother and that I've been abandoning my responsibilities. I don't plan to answer these claims publicly. I'm collecting all evidence I have, especially since she has nothing to back up her accusations. But I have everything to back up mine. So no, Stefan, this is not going to be a he said, she said situation. He deleted his Reddit account, claiming it was because one person found him. But then he told me a bunch of people sent him death threats, which seems impossible and contradictory. He did send his friends to my post, and I think they sent me some unsavory DMs and comments, allegedly. When I tried to talk to Stefan, he always made me feel like I was going crazy. Whenever I raised concerns or expressed feelings, he would dismiss them, belittle my emotions, and make me second-guess myself. For instance, I'd come home to find that he had invited people over without informing me in advance. When I brought it up, he'd insist that he had mentioned it earlier, even though I knew he hadn't. Another time, I planned a special meal and asked him for a specific dish, but he claimed I had requested something completely different. When I reminded him of what I had actually asked for, he'd argue that I must have forgotten my own request. Stefan would also insist he had completed tasks that I had actually done myself. For example, he would claim he had handled a household chore when I was the one who actually took care of it. When I pointed this out, he'd dismiss my recollection and insist that he had done it. Even in conversations about our relationship, Stefan would frequently deny things he had said or done. If I brought up issues I had with his mother's behavior, he'd claim, "You never mentioned that before. You're just being overdramatic." This made me question whether I had ever truly discussed these problems or if I was indeed overreacting. At one point, I was so convinced that I had early onset dementia or schizophrenia that I started to question my own sanity. I felt lost and confused, struggling to distinguish between reality and his version of events. I began to document our interactions just to keep track of what was actually happening. But Stefan would always find a way to twist things, saying, "You must be misremembering," even though I had clear evidence to the contrary. Feeling so powerless, I realized that sharing my story online was the only way to present my truth in a manner he couldn't manipulate. I wanted to ensure that there was a clear and unchangeable record of what had happened. Posting about my experiences was a crucial step in reclaiming my voice and finding support from others who might understand my situation. It was a way to take control of my narrative after feeling so lost and doubting myself for so long. Thank you all for your support during this difficult time.